Dungeons & Dragons has a lot of options, and it can be difficult for new players to choose what they want to play. The classes can be a bit overwhelming if they're looking for an easy start. Well, I'm here today to show you a basic idea of what the classes are and what to choose for your first time, whether it's your first time or your 100th experience playing D&D. D&D currently has 14 classes, 12 in the player's handbook, and 2 in Unearthed Arcana, Mystic and Artificer. Talk to your Dungeon Master on whether or not he'll let you use Unearthed Arcana. They're still kind of in beta rules and in testing, and they're completely optional. But for the sake of simplicity, and because I like them a lot, I'm going to be talking about them in this video. I like to divide the classes into 4 categories that aren't really defined in the books, just to make things a little simple for players who don't really understand the game yet. I think a great D&D party should have 1 per category, and I've tested it before and it seems to work alright, so I'd like your feedback as well. Anyways, here are the 4 categories. We've got offensive classes, supports, spellcasters, and utility. Offense classes are fighting types that do lots of damage and do very well in combat, and typically don't use too much magic, at least not at level 1. They are very simple and incredibly easy to play. If you're a new player, I really suggest playing one of these classes. They're super simple, they'll get you really into the game real fast, there's not a whole lot to manage, you don't have to think about a whole lot, and if you really just want a real simple experience for Dungeons & Dragons on your first time, I highly suggest playing at least one of these classes. All you gotta do with these guys is get in there, kill some dudes, and don't die, and of course, each one is played a little bit differently. Barbarians are all about taking damage and also dishing it out. You equip a heavy weapon, put some points into your constitution, and tank the whole team. You get a d12 in your hit dice, meaning you'll have the most hit points. You don't have to wear armor, your constitution acts as a bonus towards that, and if you're raging, you take less damage and you deal more damage. So you're protecting the team by just being this big meat tank that kills everything. Fighters, they're more about tactics. Not as much health as a barbarian, but they're good in almost every types of fighting style. They can use a bow, they can use 2 weapons, they can use 1 weapon, they can use a 2-handed weapon, they can use a weapon and shield. They're pretty much skilled in almost every type of fighting. So if you're looking for a more personalized fighter, exactly what the name is, try playing a fighter. They're real easy, they're real simple to use, and they have a lot of versatility in the later on game. All monks do are focus on their abilities and ki. In my opinion, monk is the easiest class to play in Dungeons & Dragons out of all the classes. All monks have to do is go in, punch something, and that's all they have to worry about. You get some cool abilities with your ki, like stunning people or pulling them to the ground. All you need to do is run in and punch who you need to punch. No worrying about equipment, weapons, or armor. Just your fists and your superpowers. Rogues stealth and stay in the shadows and attack when the time is right to stealthily assassinate their targets. Rogues don't really need to get into the mess of things. They try their best to kind of stealth away, stay in the back, shoot from a distance, or stab when nobody's watching them. All you're trying to do as a rogue is get advantage on your attacks so you can do your sneak attack so you can do more damage. These guys are like the thieves and tricksters of Dungeons & Dragons, so if that's the type of playstyle that you're really looking for, Rogue might fit you really well. I also think Rogues are really easy to play, in my opinion, next to Monks, so give it a shot if you're a brand new player. The offense classes allow a simple playstyle to be eventually worked into a more interesting character. If you're really wanting to go into Magic and you still are kind of new to Dungeons & Dragons, don't worry. Fighter, Rogue, Monk, and Barbarian all get a path where they can all start casting spells, albeit Fighter and Rogue get the better side to it. If you're really looking for a spell and sword type of character, just like in Skyrim, go for a fighter, Eldritch Knight. They're a lot of fun, and you can be casting fireballs while also hitting people and doing tons of damage. It's really fun, and you should really check it out. Support classes. These classes keep everyone alive and can alter battles with incredible abilities. If you're looking to help the team rather than doing loads of damage, these are the classes for you. Each support class is defined by their abilities and spells being tailored towards crowd control and healing. Each of these classes possess some way to heal or cast cure wounds. Most of the given spells are also made to help the offense classes kill a little bit easier, whether you're holding down an enemy or making it easier for them to hit them, or paralyzing someone, or knocking them into a wall. You're not really doing tons of damage as a support class, you're more or less helping the team kill the other bad guys that you want to kill. Or incapacitate them if you're not about, all that killing stuff. I'm a pacifist character. This will only work for about 3 levels, and then I'll want to kill things. You're more likely to be buffing your friends than shooting fireballs. Clerics, the god-sworn prophets. They have many different ways they can be played. They have lots of domains to choose from. Clerics can be protective, they can be healers, they can be damage boosters, or they can be completely just knowledgeable. These make your cleric very, very customizable in how they choose to give their miracles to the world. But in that sense, they're a little bit hard to play, and they can be a little bit daunting when you first open the book and you look at cleric and you're like, hey, this looks like a good idea, and then you start reading the rest of the page and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. It can be a little confusing for new players. Just having just a cleric in the party can just completely change everything. They're also very, very spell heavy, making them a little bit difficult to play as well. Reading through all those spells or managing all those cards can be a little hard sometimes. If you're up for the challenge, go for it, but clerics are incredibly useful in Dungeons & Dragons. I had a tough time with this one because I thought Druid would fit better on the spellcaster section. However, most of the Druid's spells are crowd control and are healing, or at least helping your party, sustaining them with Goodberry, lots of support types of spells, so I figured they'd fit better in the support category. Druids commune with nature to control the battlefield and the world around them. Druids have this awesome ability called Wild Shape where they can turn into animals, and it's really, really awesome because when you transform to the animal, you have a pool of hit points, and if those hit points go out, you just come back to your normal self with all of your hit points, meaning they can just give themselves so much health. So if you took a druid and a barbarian and you put them together, oh, you'd never die. But like clerics, druids are a bit spell heavy, but I think they're a little bit easier to play than clerics. Druids have very minimal spells they can really choose from, unlike clerics who get just a ton of spells. You can kind of pick and choose what you want for each day, making them a little bit easier to play. Still, a little bit difficult, not the easiest class. I still suggest if you're brand new, go ahead and play an offense class. Unless you're really up to the challenge, you really want to delve into D&D, like, right, I'm playing a druid! Go for it. Paladins are oath-driven. They are about serving their god in any way possible. In my opinion, paladins aren't difficult to play, they're difficult to roleplay. Role-playing a paladin can be difficult for new players. Since new players will likely want to explore all of the possible encounters and ideas and what you can do in Dungeons & Dragons, a paladin may limit their choices in that sense. However, paladins are very helpful. They can tank, they can deal damage, they can empower others and themselves, they can cast smiting abilities on their weapons just to be like... They can heal a lot too. They have an ability called Lay on Hands where they have a pool of health each day that they can just heal people with. Paladins can be very powerful if played correctly. They're not too difficult to play, I don't think. They're more like a cleric that can fight and they get a set amount of spells. It's just that role-playing a paladin can be a little bit difficult for new people, especially if you have to follow that oath that your god gives you. And if you're not really familiar with all the D&D gods, you know, go do your research. Bards are the easiest support class to play in Dungeons & Dragons, and they're also my favorite class in all of D&D. You play music to inspire your comrades, you heal them during short rests, and you can cast spells to do massive area effects that can hit lots of targets at once. It's really great because your whole party has got swords and battle axes and spells they can cast from their hands and their wands, and you're in the back with a guitar going ding, 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 and people explode for some reason. It's really great, and bards can be very whimsical, very fun to play, and they're very easy. You only have to pick a certain amount of spells. You have a few abilities you really have to manage, and they're really good at being just great at everything. They can fight, they can cast spells, they can heal, and they get an ability called Jack of all Trades, which gives them a bonus to all of their skill checks. If you're looking for a support class and you're kind of new and you don't really want to play a fighter, try out Bard. It's a lot of fun. Spellcasters. These classes are designed to be a bit more detailed and a little bit more difficult to play. However, like I've said before, if you're willing to go and learn everything, go ahead, be my guest, check out the player's handbook. If you're brand new to the game, you're like, I don't really want to read this whole book, I don't really recommend you play any of the spellcasters, but they are incredibly useful. Their variety of abilities and magic can influence the game dramatically. These classes tend to be the reasons many adventurers succeed in their endeavors. However, spellcasters can be tailored exactly to the type of experience of Dungeons & Dragons that you want to play. They are incredibly customizable to the exact character that you want to play. They require a bit of time to make, so if your campaign's about to start in about 10 minutes, pick a rogue or a barbarian because it takes a little bit of time to make a spellcaster. An Unearthed Arcana class that isn't fully finished, but I've playtested it and checked it out, and I have one thing to say about it. It's really powerful and really detailed. It's a 28-page PDF, and it's insane. Mystics are incredibly powerful, and they work a little bit different than other spellcasters. Instead of having spell slots, having 1 or 2 that you can cast per day, they have a pool of psi points, and they can use these psi points per day, and they can use as many as they want. You could literally use all your psi points on one spell to do a ton of damage if you wanted, just for the day. But then you'd be out of magic for the whole day. All of the subclasses for Mystic are also very, very customizable. There's ones that give you superpowers, some that make you more of like a rogue and a fighter, and you can pick which abilities you want specifically for each subclass, meaning that you can have specifically tailored Mystic exactly to how you want to play them. They're a lot of fun, they're really interesting if you're really wanting to read that 28-page PDF, but I tell you to go for it. The easiest magic class to play in my opinion. Sorcerers have abilities that empower their spells to make them stronger. Like Mystic, but a little bit toned down. You get abilities that can make your spells faster, you can make them do more damage, you can make 2 of the same spell using sorcerer points. But the subclasses for Sorcerer are really fun. You can pick a Draconic Bloodline, allowing you to grow scales on you, increasing your armor class, making you more of a battle sorcerer. Or you can go into the very fun and hilarious Wild Magic, where every time you cast a spell, you roll a d20, and if you roll a 1, something random happens. There's a table in the player's handbook that shows all the crazy things that can happen. One time we were playing Curse of Strahd, and everybody turned into sheep. Yeah, even Strahd. It can make for really hilarious situations. Wizards, a more technical, knowledgeable magic class. Wizards focus on one type of magic to focus. They can be necromancers, evokers, abjurers, enchanters. If you want to focus on buffing your team with shields, do you want to focus on the magic of teleportation? Do you want to raise the dead as a necromancer? But you know, it could be for a good cause. Wizards are likely going to be the class for you. You pick your favorite kind of magic and you go into it, but you still get all of the spells in which you can cast from. So don't be afraid. If you pick one type of magic, that doesn't mean you're limited to it. You still have the option to cast all magics. You just have to choose the one point of focus that you really want to go into. Warlocks are a bit difficult for some to understand, so I'll make it a little simple. Like clerics, you have a deity that you follow and answer to. However, warlocks draw power from their patrons, while clerics are given miracles by their gods. Warlocks are more driven by power and opposed to clerics, and that is definitely seen in their class. You get a very limited amount of spells, but delving into the dark arts, you unlock invocations that act like feats or perks to your warlock, meaning that they can be very, very customizable. You could be an Eldritch Blast sniper or an All-Seer who can read every language. You could have a companion with you. You can summon weapons to your hand. They get not a whole lot of spells, but they get lots of spell-like abilities that make them very, very unique and different in terms of the spellcaster class. They're pretty easy to play and pretty simple going out. It's just the concept of them that seems to be a little bit difficult to understand, but the book can explain it if you're willing to read it. Either way, warlocks get lots of cool abilities. Utility. So these two classes I threw into utility because I didn't really have much of a place for them in any other class. Rangers can cast spells, and they can heal, and they can be great fighters. Artificers can also do the same, so these classes can really help your party however they really want to help their party. Artificers, also Unearthed Arcana, are a specialist alchemist who can use potions and brews or use a crafted thunder cannon to fire at enemies from a distance. It's a gun. You can have a gun in D&D. You also gain the ability to craft a construct that follows you and helps you in battle. You can have a gun, and you can have a robot that follows you. Artificers are also very customizable and can gain magical items in their ability sets. You can have a robot, you can have a gun, and you can have an alchemy jug that spills mayonnaise whenever you want. They seem a bit clunky in production. I've playtested a few of them and they seem a little strange. I wish they had more of an upgradable ability to the construct or to the gun or things like that. I might come up with my own upgraded version of the Artificer just to make them a little bit more interesting, but they can be a lot of fun if you make the most of it, and they're definitely an interesting class to play. Rangers are the love child of Druid and Fighter. They have weapon expertise, but they can commune with nature for support-like spells. Rangers can also track, an ability no other class can do very well. If you're using Unearthed Arcana Ranger, you should really be using Unearthed Arcana Ranger. You gain a variety of fun abilities and ways to customize your Beast Hunter. You can be an Underdark Delver. You can have a companion, a beast that follows you around. Or you can be a hunter. In any way, it's up to you. Well, there's a basic breakdown of each class, and I hope this helped you in some way decide what character you should possibly make for your upcoming campaign. Dungeon Masters. I would highly suggest planning a Session 0 for your new campaign. A Session 0 is getting everybody together just to make characters. You're not playing, all you're doing is making characters. This allows everybody to kind of mingle with one another on what they want to make, what they want to play. It's never fun when you start the game, 2 people show up and they're both playing Tiefling Bards, and you're just like, come on, guys. A little bit of communication can go a long way, and you can even end for some really interesting character backstories of characters maybe wanting to be related or having ties to their backstory. But if you're going to get them together to do a Session 0, I would encourage you to show them this video. Have them come up with their party. If they've got 4, have one for each category if you want to make a really kick-butt party. Or you can all play Mystics. It's really up to you, and that's what Dungeons & Dragons is all about. I'm just hopefully here just to make everything a little bit easier for you and your new game. But have fun out there, adventurers. Peace.